So let me ask, have you tried and completed yesterday's 3 assignments in Hibernate? Anyone has any question regarding the same that you tried something but you could not finish? Okay, you can keep asking me till I'm in the revision. So what is it we are going to do today is we are going to complete the remaining CRUD operations. I've shown you update, but I will show you the something called as bulk updates, bulk deletes today. Delete I could not finish, so we'll do that. And then we will start with the advanced half, which is image handling, blob handling, storing and restoring images. So in case you need to do it for your projects, you should know how to do it. And then we are going to start with the entity to entity relationships. I'll show you the inheritance part where you can have a common entity as a superclass. There are so many annotations you'll be learning. And then I'll be talking about one-to-many, many-to-one, one-to-one, many-to-many, all these associations. So whatever we are doing today, 100% is a project objective. Okay, so, but not before the revision. So the important most part, as you must have guessed already, is POJO state transitions. From the conceptual interview part of it is, so when you talk about POJOs or entities, who is going to manage these state transitions? Hibernate. But you have org.hibernate.station API to pass these transitions. So everyone, I hope, has already revised. There are two important key questions you need to ask. Is your POJO currently part of L1 cache? Is it a part of L1 cache? Means, is the POJO reference added in L1 cache is the first question. And is it a part of database? Means, is there a corresponding record row in the database? Are these questions clear? Because I'm going to ask you soon what will be for different stages, different states. So if I say transient, what are the answers? Is it a part of L1 cache? And is there a corresponding row in the database? Two answers. I need two answers, right? So because we are filling up the table. So answer is absolutely no. And here also no. Are you understanding? Okay. For persistent, so tell me, if I say a POJO is a persistent POJO, can you tell me two answers? Okay, the first answer is yes, 100%. Persistent POJO means they are part of persistence context, persistence environment, which is equal to session level cache. But the second answer is either yes or no. Okay, so depends. So let us elaborate. This part, 100% yes. This part, either yes or no. So let me ask you two flow diagrams. If you started with the transient POJO, and if you call any of these methods, I'll take other methods today, save, persist, save or update or merge, the POJO becomes transient. So at that point, when you say session.save, session.persist or something, at that point, is it a part of database? Is there does it have the database identity? Answer is no. So not yet part of database. Will gain the database identity. Will gain the database identity means insertion of a record will happen when? Upon commit. Understood me perfectly? Are you getting this? Of course, transient POJO reference. Naneshwar, I've written all the comments. Check the code in the comments. Unless until you say session.save, it doesn't become persistent. When you say open a session and begin a transaction, your L1 cache is all empty. Okay, so how can you say 100% it is transient? Okay, so this is your unless until you say session.save, it is the moment you say session.save, session.persist, it will be it will be in the L1 cache, but not a part of database. Now, so this was one flow. There is another way. Suppose there is no object in the heap. I'm referring to that state transition diagram. And after that, you call either get method. Which get method? Session.get. Or you call the HQL, JPQL, followed by Either get single result, which may give you one entity, or you said get result list. What does it return? What does a get method return in case of a valid ID? Single persistent entity. What does get single result return in case of a in case of success? Single persistent entity. What does get result list method return? List of persistent entities. So tell me, this much of the statement is clear to everyone? See, if you say no, then only I can explain. If you say yes, I'm going to, of course. Or if you don't say anything, I'm going to continue. Okay. So in this case, can you tell me? In such case, no object and get. So is it so I'm asking you same questions. In this case, is it a part of L1 cache? Quickly. After you call session.get or JPQL, provided a success 100%. When you say persistent, it is a part of persistence context. Without thinking, you say yes. But now the next question is it a part of, is there a corresponding matching record or records in the database? Yes, again. Are you understanding me totally? So, you know, that kind of a clarity I want whenever you are working in Hibernate and later JPA and something like Spring Data JPA. Now the third one. Fourth state we will discuss today. So the third state is detached. So tell me, when you say detached, same question. Is it a part of L1 cache? Detached POJOs, detached entities, 100% no. But does it have a corresponding record in the database? Or that is also gone? 100% yes. Everyone knows that. It is not it is detached, decoupled, not from database, only from L1 cache. Okay. So what are the triggers? I mean, triggers means conditions. What are the conditions under which persistent POJO or POJOs will become detached? Anyone wants to tell me the triggers? Okay, there are 3 triggers. I'm looking for 3 answers. Commit, yeah, okay, so fine. Commit, we will say this one, Sada. What I'll say is, I'll say explicitly, session closing. Because, you know, if you use open session, commit will not close the session. So let's be explicit. Session closing, or you know the method evict, or you know clear. Correct? So this is the general answer. Now I have a specific question. When will persistent POJOs become detached? In a following cases. So suppose you have obtained the session using session factory.open session. Will it get automatically closed, or does programmer has to explicitly close it? Of course, programmer has to close it explicitly in the finally block, or at least use try with resources. So here, in this case, when will a session close? So you know that is the time session close, and the persistent entities become detached. But if you have said get current session, when will the persistent entity, okay, forget it. When will the session close? Automatically upon transaction boundary, which is commit or rollback. And that is the case when the persistent entities become detached. Are we understanding it totally? Zero questions, I mean, zero confusion. Okay, because all these things will help you a lot in writing code. So what are the important most statements? Who performs when and what and when? Okay, by the way, have you just gone through that short readme? Automatic dirty checking? It was not just a half page or whatever. Okay. So who will perform what and when? So Hibernate performs automatic dirty checking upon commit. Means what? It will check the state of L1 cache against the database. If it finds a new entity, just transient to persistent, which doesn't have a corresponding record in the database, which query it will fire? Insert, update, delete. Which one? Of course, insertion. You saw that yesterday. If you have a corresponding record in the database, but one of the properties of the one or multiple properties of that POJO is dirty. Dirty means modified. Which query will it fire? Update. And this thing, you have not seen it, but there is a method session.delete, which marks the POJO for deletion. And whenever upon commit, then your contain Hibernate will see that, okay, one of the POJO is marked for deletion and it will fire the delete query. So that is about your Hibernate's magic. And you know already this. If you modify the state, how do we modify the state of the POJO? Using setters. But a state of which POJO? Persistent entity or POJO. Hibernate will automatically perform insert, update, delete, as in not insert, but update or delete. So to sync up the state of the database with that of L1 cache. Yesterday you saw that. Yesterday we were doing something. I don't remember, one of these APIs. We modified the state and automatically it resulted into update. But on the other hand, if you modify the state of the detached POJO, will those changes be propagated, carried forward to the database, or they won't? Of course not. See, the whole what you say, whole connection with the underlying database is via session. And when you say commit or when the session is closed, that there's no connection to the underlying database. How can it sync up? So is everyone clear versus clear in persistent versus detached? Are we? So be careful whenever you get this. Sometimes you say transient. I mean, you'll see so many exceptions and all, and we'll talk about it. So we have looked at some of the methods. So which methods we have looked at? We have looked at save method. So tell me, what goes in, what comes out, and what happens? So session.save, you pass a transient POJO reference, which only exists in what? In heap, but not in cache, not in database. So Hibernate will, I've shown you the diagrams. Everything is shared with you in yesterday's diagrams. So Hibernate will copy that reference, transient POJO reference, into L1 cache, marking it persistent. And at the time of commit, insertion will happen. Now I'm going to discuss in 2 minutes the other methods. And there's a popular question, save versus persist versus save or update versus merge. We'll talk about it. Which is the other method you have seen yesterday? Get. Get is for retrieval. Is it going to, okay, what is the finder criteria? Primary key. So if you have, it is like a find by primary key. So if you have a primary key, definitely, and you want to retrieve the details, definitely go for session.get. What are the 2 arguments you pass here? POJO class, the class to be loaded during deserialization, and the serializable ID. So that brings us to the next question. Is it compulsory to create POJO classes, Hibernate managed POJO classes? Must they implement serializable interface? Should they implement it? Answer is no. But their ID property, as far as Hibernate is concerned, the ID property, should it be serializable or may not, may or may not? 100% has to be. Are you getting it? See this. The serializable ID is what you are giving. So there is proof of concept. And you see this. What your save method returns is the generated ID. If you have not used that add generated value, that means you are assigning the ID. So that will be returned. In simple words, ID property must be serializable. So tell me, which is currently what is the data type of our ID currently? What is the user ID? Not int. Int and integer, they are different. So don't give such a loose answer. Integer, java.lang.integer, a wrapper. Is it serializable? Yes. So technically speaking, even if you say int, if you have tried this out, it still works. But you will see that null checking and the default value checking becomes easier via actual serializable types. So we always, I mean, as per the Gavin King suggestion, the founder's suggestion, we use the actual classes such as integers or long typically to, and one property is kept totally separately only for HBM. HBM means only for Hibernate mapping. So accordingly code. Now, so get method. What does a get method return? In case the ID is invalid, it returns null. Otherwise, what it returns is the persistent POJO reference. So it fires a select query as you have seen. If the entity is not already present in L1 cache, performs deserialization, gets that populated POJO and adds the reference in the L1 cache. You've seen it all. But if you are having a finder searching by other than primary key criteria, can you use session.get or will you have to use JPQL? If I tell you, get me all the users by a particular role, of course you'll require JPQL. So what is the difference between SQL and JPQL? Is SQL slightly database specific? Yes. Is JPQL database specific? No. It is Java persistence query language. So it is neither database specific nor Hibernate specific. So while answering, don't say Hibernate specific, say independent of persistence provider. So who is our persistence provider today? Hibernate. Tomorrow, if it is something else, I don't have to touch a single word of the query because it is JPA compliant. Okay, keep it that way. And it is very easy to translate. You must have seen. I have shown you yesterday select query. Today I'll show you update and delete. There's nothing like insert because they have already given you so many methods to insert the record. You'll see all of that. Okay, so how do you okay, best is I've got this. So here, if you want to suppose a fresh requirement, or maybe yesterday I asked you, I don't remember. If I want to list all the users who have registered after a particular date, having the registration amount less than a particular amount. Okay. So if you have this requirement, what will you use? Session.get or JPQL? Obviously. Yes, please. Of course, JPQL. So give me the JPQL, please. Yes. So initial, okay. Is it a select, insert, select or DML? Select. So select. Typically use the aliases select you from user you. So that is a baseline. Then comes the where class. Okay, before I say this is a POJO class name. You don't have to even go to the database and think about table names, column names, nothing. Everything is resolved by Hibernate internally, where now you have an alias. So here, which is the criteria? So registration date. So what is REG date? Column name or a POJO property name? 100% POJO property name after. So greater than. Now you have a concept of an in parameter. But if you say, no, I like my question marks. Is question mark supported by Hibernate? Yes. If you have seen a set parameter method, one of the overloaded method is int position. So you can do that. I'm not recommending it. So use named parameters. The query becomes so readable. So colon and something. So parameter name can be anything. This is your parameter in parameter name and registration amount. Sorry, you can say just registration amount because there's only one table, one POJO, but better to refer to through the alias. Again, a POJO property less than amount. Is everyone clear with the query? Everyone can manage it. And I'll not write it because we waste too much time. Waste time will not say, but we invest a lot of time in revision. And then the other topics suffer greatly, guys. Anyway, so the point is, this is the query. So which is the method to create the query? Session.create query. If it is a select query, is it going to return a result? 100% yes. So you use the two argument create query. First is the JPQL and second is the result what it is going to send. So when I say select you from user you, is it going to be fetching only certain columns or all the columns? Is it select star or is it select particular column? It is select star. So entire user POJO. So what is the type you are going to get as a result? User.class, POJO.class. And once you have done this, there is a method. Have I written that? No, I have not written. What is the method to inject? Set the in parameters. Dot set para. I mean, query has a method set parameter. What is it returning? Void or non-void? Set parameter method returns what? Void or non-void? Don't say non-void. I mean, when you say non-void, I expect the actual answer. What does it return? This is how you should answer. Don't ask this query object. So the Q is uppercase. So this same query. So can I do the method chaining? 100% yes. How will it sound? How will it look like? Session.create query. This JPQL user.class dot set parameter. Inject this parameter. Dot set parameter. Set the second parameter. And what method will you use? Which method you'll use? Get result list or get single result? Which method will you use in this case? Of course, get result list, because there can be multiple such users. Neither registration date nor registration amount is unique key. So you know that. So what it returns, read this, returns this, get result list, returns the list of persistent entities. So list of users whose references are already added in the L1 cache. So if you touch means modify the state of any of such persistent entity, 100% update query will be fired. If you delete one of these entities, 100% delete query will be fired. You'll see this. I mean, delete I could not finish yesterday. Today we'll do that. So are we clear about query methods and get result list? But suppose if I say, for example, email is unique. So if I say, get me the user with email, okay, I'm not talking about login, just an email. So in that case, maximum how many records will you get from the underlying database? Single one. So will you use, can I use get result list? Of course, yes. But then you'll have to say dot get 0. There's a better convenient method, get result list, which returns exactly, I mean, either 0 or 1. Because if you give a wrong email ID, nothing. So at the most returns a single persistent entity. So there are exceptions to think about. In case of no results, as in there is no such email ID, what will it do? Will it return a null or will it throw the JP exception? It throws an exception. So this is not coming from Hibernate. It is coming from JPA, javax.persistence, no result exception. In case of multiple results, suppose you give by mistake, it's a mistake. You give me the users by a particular role, I'll get multiple records. Then you will get, by mistake, if you have used get single result, 100% non-unique result. And if you use a DML, again by mistake, it will throw you illegal state. Understood me? I hope you have used it for your yesterday's login scenario, so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so now let me show you, before I start with today's objective, is the session.save, is it the only method to transition from, to take the POJO from transient to persistent, or are there more? Answer is there are 3 more. So that is what we are discussing first, and then we will continue with the remaining pending object. I mean, then we'll continue further. So all this I have explained completely in your yesterday's help itself. So please open Hibernate Session API and look for save. There is another one which I have said. Yeah. So, okay. So I'll tell you. The thing is, the title is testing core API, as in sessions core API. One is persist, one is save. So read this carefully. Now you'll realize why I was insisting, why Kevin King insists on giving the proper classes, integer, long, uppercase L, rather than giving the primitive types. Anyway, read this, I'll explain. So, I don't know, you might have read this thing, or otherwise you read with me. I'll describe the save method. Save method is considered as the tolerant one. Tolerant means even if you make a mistake, it will tolerate your mistake types, you know. So what is it we are saying? If you give, whenever you are calling a save method, the assumption I have made is, two assumptions I have made. One assumption is you are using that annotation at the rate generated value. The moment you say at the rate generated value, is it an automatic ID generator or is it an assigned ID? Automatic or assigned? Automatic. And further, when you say generate whatever the generation type dot identity, it means with the auto increment strategy. Are we good? Are we clear? Okay. So first assumption is the annotation I have used for ID is at ID is anyway compulsory at generated, so automatic ID generation. And the second assumption is I have used, or rather we have used, some wrapper class, integer or log. Okay, so read that. So save method. Okay, before I explain, guys, how will your container means Hibernate know whether you are passing a transient POJO reference or a transient entity or a detached entity? It's an interesting question. People grill you. Let me ask you. Let's see whether anyone can answer this. Of course, you will get the clarity. But before I am saying that, I'll repeat my question. Think like Hibernate. And how will Hibernate know for a particular API as an input whether you have passed transient or detached? Answer that. Because anyway, I don't want to say anything. Let me see you responding. You understood my question? How will your container know whether it is transient or this thing detached? Viraj, I can't. I mean, I can't accept your answer. Your answer is not clear to me. No, not clear. Not clear. Not specifically. It doesn't have to do anything like L1 cache and this thing. No, you are off track, Mohit. No, still not. Okay, stop. Let's not waste time. Yes, ID checking. All your Hibernate has to do is check the value of the ID. And now you tell me if you have said session.save or any method, and if your entity's ID value is null, tell me, transient, it will take it as what? Transient or detached? If the ID is null, it will take it as transient. And if ID is not null, it will think of your entity as detached. It will give you benefit of doubt. You know the term benefit of doubt. It may trust you and may say that, okay, there may be some corresponding record. Okay, so that is why Gavin King suggests give wrapper classes. So reference type has a default value null. Checking becomes easy. If you give a primitive type int, what is the default value of int? Easy busy question. 0. So it will check against 0, but better checking is, easier checking is with null. So now continue with the story. Okay. So now when you say session.save and if you give some not null ID, okay, let me say the proper way. If you give the null ID, which is what we did by default, we never set the ID. Default value of integer type of reference is null. So if you give a not null ID, of course, things were working beautifully. But if you give not null ID, whether it exists in database or doesn't exist in database, will save method even look at it? Answer is no. It doesn't care. And it doesn't give any error, any exception. It will ignore your past ID, whatever you are passing, null or not null. It will, I'm making an assumption that auto increment, auto generator, automatic generator. So it will create its own ID and insert a record. That is why I said save method is tolerant. I have a diagram to explain it. As always, diagrams say better. So where is that diagram? No, it isn't added in today's. I think I had given it yesterday also. Anyway, so look at this. Here, I'm discussing save versus persist. I have drawn the two diagrams. Your homework is draw the further two for merge and update. Merge and save or update. So anyway, I'll explain and you can draw. You can continue on this whiteboard. Okay. So what are the two assumptions I made? ID property is either integer or log, some wrapper type, not a primitive type. And are we supplying this thing ID value, or are we asking Hibernate to generate it? Generated or supplied? Generated. And because we are working in MySQL, identity type is perfect. Now look at three possible cases. So like I said, 2 drawings I have given you, 2 more I expect from you. So you said session.save and you pass, let us say, user reference, customer reference, your whatever that, what was that? Topic reference, tutorial reference, some Pojo reference. So there are only 3 possibilities. I cannot think of 4th. If you think, you tell me. So you have passed this Pojo with a ID value. Everything is on ID value. Are you getting the fact? So it will, suppose you have passed the ID value as null. Why null? Because integer long, reference type. Or you have passed not null and it doesn't have a corresponding. Suppose I say pass 3. So there is a record by the ID 3. So not null, or I'm sorry, not null and existing record 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I pass something like 100, it doesn't have, so not null and not existing in database. Understood the 3 cases or lost right here? The 3 cases of ID: null, not null, and not matching with anything in database. Because that is where the whole API refers. And not null, but having a matching record in database. Let me see what you are saying. Everyone is clear? Not lost still. Okay. If you survive this, you won't feel lost later. Okay. So in either case, what will happen? So the answer is common, straightforward. Hibernate says, I don't care. Literally. Hibernate ignores the past ID, creates its own ID. Assumptions are right here. So in auto increment manner currently, and inserts the record in the database. In short, is it a tolerant one, forgiving us for our errors? Transient means you should have a null ID. Or is it a intolerant one, throwing the exceptions? See, these words, make you remember the concept. So I use forgiving and tolerant and all. Tolerant one. It doesn't care, like, uncaring or whatever. I mean, I don't know what you want to say, how you want to describe. So this is how it works. But guys, typically speaking, if you make a mistake, you would like to have an alert as an exception. So let me give you a thumb rule. Which is the method we will typically use? We will typically prefer the one which raises the exception if we mess up, if we make a mistake, and that is the persist. So you will see, when I take you from Hibernate native APIs, which is what session, to its super type entity manager, they don't give you all. They just have one method, persist. So understand the persist method well. Is persist tolerant or intolerant? You decide. Read it and you decide. It's not tolerant at all. So see this, and that is what we will prefer. We don't want tolerant guys excusing our mistakes, because later you might have a problem. So what goes in is a transient Pojo reference. Persist method tells you, guys, I'm here for persistence. So give me transient Pojo and I'll do the job. But you give me something wrong with a not null ID, I'm not going to accept it. That way. It is that way, you remember. And forget about remembering. Try it out. Best way. So if you give some not null ID, persist method doesn't care whether it is matching with the database or there's no corresponding record. It says, how can you like, what do you say, bluff me or whatever. So it will definitely throw the exception. Guys, I'm saying all this because troubleshooting, you'll have to do so much in your projects. Anywhere you get persistent object exception, 100% take it from me. By mistake, you have passed a detached entity, or the entity with not null ID to persist. In short, a detached entity. And why it is taking your input as a detached? Because how will it set it apart transient to detached Hibernate? By looking at the ID value. So if the ID value is default, which is null, takes it as transient. Not null, takes it as detached. And can you ever pass a detached type of entity to the persist method? Absolutely not. Persistent object exception is guaranteed. So instead of reading this, I told you, I'm being very open. I mean, that is how a faculty should be. Like whatever, wherever you understand, you just pick it up from. So three possibilities. Say, okay, the method is now saved to persist. If you pass the default value of ID, currently a reference, so null. Not null, doesn't have a matching record in the database. Not null, but has a existing, matching record in the database. So in this case, Persist is happy with you. Hibernate is happy with you because you are doing a perfect job. You asked for persistence, you gave a null ID, all okay. But the moment you give a not null ID, whether it exists or whether it doesn't exist, Persist does not care. And will it insert a record? 100% not. Will it raise the exception to show its displeasure? 100% yes. And that exception name is persistent object exception. Understood something? Clear what I said? Time to test. So get into your Eclipse, guys. But I opened it just a second. Did I not open it? You open and keep the ID ready. I thought I opened it. Anyway, I may not. And copy yesterday's project into today's. What was that? 10.1 to 11.1. It's still a continuation of CRUD and testing APIs. This all what I'm discussing is typical favorite interview topics. Popular questions. Let me see. So let's start with the copy business. After you copy, edit form.xml and look for A10.1, Control F, Control V, and change it to 11.1. So everything will be consistent. Replace all, close. You tell me whenever you are done. Just make a copy and change everything globally from 10.1 to 11.1. Pretty simple. I don't want you to take the same efforts which you took. It becomes so boring doing the same things. Now, open. Let's see what we have here. Register new user with current session. Okay. So now I'll just replace it. Okay. I'll rename it, refactor it. Refactor, register new. Now you are continuing with get current session. We are not going anywhere else. Rename it to test. I'm just thinking of this session save. Session API. Or okay, I can be elaborate. Save. Just so that after a month or whenever you are into that preparation phase and all, you should be just able to open the project and you should be able to recall quickly. That's the whole idea. So open this tester. We have already written the DAO together. So inputs are here. How do you revise? From tester, go to the DAO layer, control click. Here, this part everyone knows, get current session and all. Now remove the extra stuff which we don't want. Okay, so just a second. I'm just thinking, yeah, we can rename this. Not rename, we can just get rid of this. So here, now you don't want multiple sessions. Now you know open session versus current session. So remove the extra thing, keep only the required stuff. So your focus will be on right things. Okay, so I can give you this method in a minute. So I've got a session, I've got a beginner transaction, and the main thing is session.save. That is the highlight. And I don't want this. Already explained yesterday. All this is fine. Yeah. So somebody was asking, I think Naneshwar. Here, Naneshwar for you. We are passing to this method, method reference, to the method a POJO reference. So here, when you say at this point, if you tap, user is transient. After that, I'm getting the current session. I'm getting the session, but there is no session yet associated with that main thread, current thread. So of course, it will open the new session, begin a transaction. So let me ask you guys, not just him, anyone. What is the state of the user still? Transient or persistent? Transient. Guys, unless until you say either session.save or persist or save or update or merge, it is going to be transient because the fact remains the same. We have not yet added it to the L1 cache. Are we clear, Naneshwar? I think this was your question, if I recall correctly. Okay, so this is still transient. Okay, now first we'll play with the save method. So this is your save method, which you already know. So save it, as in save the contents. And now everyone knows. Okay, I don't know whether everyone has ideas. So let's do a little bit of refactoring. Otherwise, I won't be able to play with it. So take out this entire thing and let's create a user separately and pass this transient pojo to the method. And I got a message here. Okay, so to keep you all together at the same page, let me just send you this. Which are the two source files I edited is the DAO. So modified DAO and I'm sending you modified tester. So in case you want to start with me, you can. So where's that? Test session API save. Okay. So now I'm asking you a question. If I say SOP, let's say user ID plus u dot get user ID. Anyone wants to tell me what is the output you are going to get? Null or not null? Simple question, simple answer. 100% null. So this is going to be null. So I'm starting with the. So okay, let me say this.
If you have a problem like mine, see how to solve it.
Okay, can I mute him? Yeah, I can. Great. Okay, so here, so this is a perfectly working situation. Okay, let me not say this. You say this. What will happen if I continue in this manner? Will the record be inserted or the exception will be thrown quickly? We have done this all the time. Of course, record is inserted. So let's not waste your precious morning time. Make the change. So now you dot set this thing user ID something. So let's say 1. Everyone must be having check. Don't assume. You must be having a record with user ID 1. If not, give some existing ID. I don't know. You might have deleted some records. So use. I have the record 1. Okay. So see this. So what is the situation I'm showing you? I'm passing to the save method the ID which is not null and which has a matching record on the database. Tell me quickly what will happen ahead of testing, because I've already explained a lot of time I spent. Insertion of a record or this thing, exception, insertion. Exception, wrong answer. We are talking about the tolerant patient guy here. So he's a Hibernate acts in a tolerant manner. No exception. Will a new record be inserted? 100% yes, with whatever information new you give. And what will be the ID it will assign? Will it be 1 or will it be 5? 1 or 5? In my case, 5. I mean, I don't know your case. The newly incremented, next auto increment ID. Okay, confirm it in a minute. This is how you learn. And imagine, guys, you testing all this with a web application. It would have been a nightmare. Every time you start a server, stop a server, and keep track of things. That is why you learn it with something like tester scenario, core Java things. Anyway, so here, email ID should not repeat. So you don't have You can, ABCD also will do. Password, role, registration, registration, month and day. And as you can see, it has fired the insert query. Don't trust this so much when you have a database. So tell me, if you pass a not null ID which exists in the database, what is it called? What will save method do? Save ignores your past ID and increments it and inserts a record. All of us good? All of us clear? Saw the same thing? Okay. Now give the ID not null and which doesn't exist. So do I have a record having the ID as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Of course not. So tell me, what do you expect? Persistent object exception, no exception, whatever. I mean, you tell me. Exception or no exception? No exception. A new record inserted, ignoring your ID in an auto-incremented manner. Everyone has it? Okay. I mean, data insertion takes time. So I was just hesitating. See, I'm going to get you started and you will definitely spend at least half an hour or whatever time in lab in confirming. Everything I cannot confirm takes too much time. So let's say, something. And as you can see, no exception, and check if the new record has been inserted happily with the auto incremented ID, all yes. Got the same? All clear? Okay. So now let us make a change. So what is it we are talking about? We are talking about one thing I'm taking fully, like I told you, with examples and all. Others you have to test. So what are the differences? What is the favorite question? Save versus persist. So one immediate difference is save returns you the ID which is generated in a serializable format. Persist is what? ID returning or a void returning method? Yeah, Mohit, just a second. I'm in the middle of this. It is a void returning method. Okay, so that is a one simple, obvious difference. But this is what is a real difference. So what we are going to do now? We are simply going to modify save method to persist and we'll observe and conclude. Mohit, here is I sent you the tester already. Anyway, have a look at it. Here. I've created a user object. I've sent you this tester. And here we are playing with the ID values. Got me this one, Mohit? Okay. So now, let me this thing. Now it is not about save. It is about persist. Okay. So please make the changes. Go to the DAO layer. And which is the line we are going to change? One word we are going to change is remove this save method and replace it by persist. And trust me, not trust me, you don't have to trust me. Open your sessions super interface, which is JPA Entity Manager. And JPA Entity Manager just gives you persist. So we will mainly use persist throughout Hibernate also, because persist is the one who is really going to check. Okay, have you done the changes, guys? Session.persist. Have you one more change? Change the method save to persist. And we will sit back and observe. So some things I'll just verbally ask you because there's simply time. Time is, the only factor. So tell me, observe the changes I'm making and tell me what will happen. Your choices are exception or no exception. Quickly. You have the whole write-up in front of you, already shared yesterday. No exception. Exception, you are saying wrong answer. Guys, when you don't assign the ID, it is a null value. And null means, of course, everything matches. Persist expects you to give a to give a what? Transient entity. The entity with a null ID is taken as transient. By Hibernate, everything matches. Record will be inserted. That is your what is it, checking. So save equal to persist. I mean, both of them behave in the same manner if you pass the null ID. Are you getting this? So now that check I'm not doing. Or shall I? Okay, just take some minute. Let's just do it. Instead of talking about it, best to confirm. I'm running out of names, you know. This time. Observe and conclude. So here, everything is fine. I told you, save is equal to persist as far as you are passing the transient entities with a null ID. Auto increment continues. Got the same answer? Now play with it. I'll take one case, other case you take. Uncomment this and say something like 3. So which is the case we are handling? You are passing to persist method a not null ID existing in database or not existing in database. Do we have a record? At least I have a record with ID 3. So you tell me what will happen. Exception or no exception? Somebody said no exception, guys. I've given you the notes. I mean, I just now read it out also. And still you are giving me the whole answer. Correct, wrong answer. Whether it is, what is it called? Not null ID, the moment you give existing or non-existing, persist does not care. Persist method says, I'm here only for transient to persistent. So you better give me a not null ID. I don't care. I as in persist method doesn't care whether it is matching or not matching. So run this. So this is your case of not null ID existing in the database. And here, so just check this. This record is not going to be created. So I'm just giving A1, B1 kinds, you know. This I have to give properly. Otherwise, I'll get a whatever that illegal state exception, registration amount and registration name. Observe and conclude. So check it clearly. Worked or did not work? Of course does not work. And Hibernate tells you so beautifully. See this. First of all, persistent object exception and read the root cause. What is it telling you? It is telling you, Veka, you can't pass a detached entity to persist method. And how does your Hibernate know? Or how it is not know? How is Hibernate taking the entity as a detached entity? The moment you pass a not null ID, the whole code blows up. So be careful. In case you get this exception, detached entity passed to persist. Persist method doesn't like you at all. 100% exception will be thrown. Getting the idea? Understanding this? Okay. Same story. Now, just copy that. I'm tired. I mean, not tired, but bored of generating the data, generating the names. So I just copied this and now play with it in this manner. You know what I'm saying. Do I have an ID such as, do I have a record with the 300 ID? Everyone knows I don't have. So run that again. So I'm giving you the answers already. It is your job to tell me whether whatever I'm saying is correct or not. So here, what is the situation? What method we have called? Session.persist. Have I passed a user ID null or not null? Not null. Is it having a corresponding record in the database? No. Persist says, I don't care. The moment you pass me a not null ID, It is going to take you as a detached entity. It doesn't care whether it has a record or not. It doesn't have time. I mean, what I mean is it doesn't check. The moment you give not null ID, it takes you as detached and blows up the code. Understanding it? Getting it all clear? So this is your behavior of save versus persist. And I'm telling you, as far as transient to persistent transition is concerned, we will end up using persist. Your JPA means the specification part doesn't even talk about other methods. It doesn't have save, it has persist. So persist it is. Now, other things you will, I mean, I'll explain, of course, but you will test it. I've given all the answers already. So if I were you, I would modify this. Modify means I will add more. So I have written completely. I feel this kind of diagram gives you more clarity even than reading the readmes. So your choice, whatever you like. So here I'm discussing, I'm not drawing, you are drawing. So save versus save or update. And there's another one called as merge. So let's discuss them. This readme is already there. So I'll stay quiet. You read. Next method, save or update, we'll discuss. Basic APIs we are discussing. You read this, you keep this on one page, and also keep the state transition Ojo life cycle diagram other page. So you have my this thing write up also, you have my diagram also. All was shared yesterday or even day before, first day itself. So now tell me, for transient to persistent, how many methods you have? Answer is 4. You already know save and persist, which is the method we are discussing, save or update. See the wording, guys. The moment you say save or update, will it be able to transition? Will it be able to make the transition from transient to persistent, detached to persistent, both of them, or neither of them? Answer is right in front of you. Answer is either of it. Yeah, both of it. So the save or, see the word, save or update. So let me check your understanding. To your session.save or update, if you pass a POJO, here my question, with a null ID, tell me which query will it fire? Okay, your choices are insert, update, or exception. Insert query. Perfect. So that works like a save. Story over. Now, you have the write-up in front of you. So just put it together, connect it together. Now, if you pass to that save or update method, a not null ID, but which has a corresponding record in the database, insert, update, or exception, update query. But if you trouble the save or update method by passing not null ID without having a corresponding record in the database, what will happen? Exception is thrown. Are you getting it? Like I said, if you apply yourself seriously, things are not difficult at all. That's why, and I hope with the readmes and the discussion, things don't sound difficult. So you know, null ID insert is equal to save. Works exactly like save. I mean, goes by auto increment and all. Not null but existing, 100% you will check that okay, there is a corresponding record, fire something. But you are going the extreme. Okay, so here you don't have a not null, I mean, you don't have an ID, you do not pass the null ID, but it is not matching with anything. So how can it update? So it will tell you that you are trying to delete or update a record which doesn't exist. Hibernate does not like it at all. Understood the description of save or update? Can everyone draw further this diagram so that in one glance, guys, when you are in interview preparation phase, trust me, you are already pressured. People are getting calls, you're not getting calls. Either way, neither way. I'm not saying, but you can imagine the pressure you have, built up pressure. So if you start working on it at that time, trust me, things become unnecessary, like unbearable. So prepare all these things. At least go through this reading material once. I'm talking in Java naturally. So you will have a better idea, better, what do you say, feel at that time. So in short, in simple English, prepare your session.save or update and similarly session.merge. Inputs I have already given. It takes you 2 minutes to confirm. So please, I'm not confirming all 3 cases. I'm confirming only the last 2 cases. That is update and the exception. Open the DAO, please. So user DAO MPL. Everyone knows what I'm going to do is save or update. See the method itself. Read this. It's a nice description. Either save or update. I mean, no brainer. The given instance, depending upon the resolution of unsaved value checks. So this is little hard to understand. What they are trying to do is unsaved value means the ID value. Depending on the ID value, every decision is taken. So let's try it out instead of just talking about it. So change the persist to save or update. So if I give the null ID, straightforward, simple insertion. So you can test that. But now I'm saying suppose, okay, so I have this case. Tell me what is going to happen. In this case, are you going to get an exception, insertion or updation? Exception. Which exception? Stale state. You don't have that state which exists at all. Anyway, so I'm just picking up the data. Anyway, it's not going to be saved. Okay. So run this application again and confirm whatever we are saying is right or wrong. So of course, I said stale state or it is stale object state exception. Just correct it if I'm wrong. And here it tells you unsaved value mapping. Unsaved value means ID value mapping was incorrect. So it is talking. This is another root cause. When I take you to optimistic locking, pessimistic locking in little advanced stages of transactions, I'll explain that. So currently just take it that it throws you which exception? Stale object state exception. And it says that unsaved value means your ID value was mapping value was incorrect. Your container Hibernate wanted to update, thinking that it was detached, but will it find a record with the ID of 300? It never found it. So naturally, the whole exception was thrown. So now I'll just verbally ask you, looking at time and all, you tell me. I am not going to run. Please use lab session before I join for this kind of a thing. So if I make it as 5, do I have a 5th record? Yeah, I have. Okay, so you tell me now, in this case, what will happen? Insert update or exception? Update. And if I comment this line totally, which query will be fired? Insert query. Completely clear? Save versus persist versus save or update. All good? Okay, the last one, merge. Read that. Okay, so you keep your what is it called? You keep this page open. I'll open that diagram also, because you have to put it all together and plus the code. So start answering. Merge method can be used for, your options are option 1, transient to persistent. Option 2, detached to persistent. Option 3, both. Option 4, none of above. Everyone is clear? Guys, save or update is taken further in merge. So instead of, comparing the whole way, we'll compare in parts. We'll compare the actual one. So what I'm discussing is save or update versus merge. So let me start asking. You have the answers in front of you. Okay. Before I go any further, there is a difference. What is the return value of save or update? Void or non-void? It's a void one. Check public void save or update. Whereas merge is non-void, it always returns you the persistent object reference. But what can go in? If you are doing from transient to persistent, the input will be transient POJO reference with a null ID. Insertion will take place. And if you pass a not null ID, it is like, here you are passing the not null ID, right? So update will take place. Okay, so this is almost like save or update. So let me start asking you specifically. Answer is already written in front of you. So what will happen if you pass the POJO with a null ID to merge method? Insert, update, or exception. Okay, so insert. So how many queries will be fired? Select followed by insert or simply insert? Answer is only insert. Story over. So save or persist or save or update or merge all work in the same manner. Only difference is the merge method returns you the persistent POJO reference, the one which is taken from the L1 cache. Great. Next case. What is that? Yeah. So if you pass to the merge method the not null ID, but which has a corresponding record in the database, what will happen? Insert, update, or exception? Update. But let me ask you a question. Only one of you gave me the perfect answer, but let me ask you a question. If you want to anyway update, which one will be faster? Save or update will be faster or merge will be faster? Save or update will be faster. Save or update is a trusting guy, trusting fellow, trusting API. Why? Because it doesn't say select. It just trusts you that, okay, you must have given the existing ID. And then maybe at the time of commit, the code blows up, throwing that stale state exception. But your merge method is conscious. Conscious means, careful guy. So first it will check, is there a corresponding record in the database which has matching with the ID? And for that, which extra query it will fire? Directly update or select followed by update? It is select plus update. Are you getting me? Are you getting the fine difference, subtle difference between the working? So save or update, directly update, let it blow up at the runtime types. But here it is select or update. Now the last question, last this thing. So I'll just take that last one. Anyway, so here. So if you pass to the merge method, not null ID and a new one. New one means doesn't exist in the database. Save or update was throwing you the exception, stale state. What will merge do? It does not throw the exception, but again it is cautious. So will it directly insert a record or first it will check? It will say first select, finds out that there is no corresponding record, and then this thing, not select followed by update, Anshumala, that is select followed by insert. Yes. So why don't you test it? So one of them, all three options, if I start testing whole day, we will be doing only that. And we have so many things planned. So open your user now. And like I said, literally we can spend hours in this discussion, which we don't have. So merge. So here, this is a wrong, what is it called? Okay, let me ask you, why should I say this? Okay, I have a question here. I think we'll require a downcasting. Yeah, it returns you the object. So do the downcasting. Okay, so I have a question for you. You have all the answers in my readme. So tell me, which out of it is persistent? Is user persistent or is user one persistent? User one is persistent. Merge method, just take a cursor here. is it showing me? Yeah. Copies the state of the given object onto the persistent object with the same ID. If there is no persistent instance, it will load, select basically, and returns the persistent instance. If the given instance is unsaved, means transient, save a copy and return it as a newly persistent. So you can read it later. Input is either a detached, or they have not said, but we know it can be a transient also. And what it returns you is 100% persistent. Okay, so you, like you said correctly, user remains still transient. Make a correction in the comment, but it is the user one. What it returns is the user one is persistent. Okay, and when you say which POJO reference is added into L1 cache, it is user reference never gets added. It is the user one reference which gets added. How do you confirm what I'm saying is correct or not? Here, if I say user.getUser ID, what do you expect to see? I'm going to give the, I'm going to start with that initial case. As in, I'm going to give the null ID. I'm not going to set the ID. So what do you expect to see here? Null or not null? 100% null. But if you correct yourself and say user1.getUser ID, will you get that auto incremented newly inserted user ID? 100% yes. I'm getting an error here because it's a scope problem. So it's where is my, okay, I was declared it with the in a try block, so of course getting the idea. Let's try this out. So here, like I said openly, I'm testing something. You test. You have all the combinations. You have got all the lab session to test it. So here, have I done the changes? Merge, yeah. So let's try this with her. In this case, if I comment this line, what do you expect to say? Plain old insert, confirm. Picking up the data. It tried to see the update and then it failed. That was your save or update. It was a trusting entity. So let me just give that. Take this. Because there is no record. Just keep track of your database. I don't have anything with A1, B1 types. And run this, please. Or if you're not getting it, you can watch. That also is fine. Observe and conclude. So user ID, of course, was null. User, but what it returned, I said user1.getUser ID. Of course, it is reflecting the correct one because what I'm returning is a persistent POJO reference. And if you see the database, record got inserted. Zero problems. So is it select followed by insert or directly insert? Directly insert. You got me? Okay. So I'll just play with one category. And the third one, I'll leave it to you. So I'll go for the update one now. You got this? So what is it I'm passing to the merge method? Not null ID, but it has a corresponding record in the database. So tell me, what do you expect to see? Insert, select plus update, exception, or whatever. Select followed by update. And whatever data you give, it will be updating. So guys, once you say select start, so you know what is there in the database. And here, choosing some ID here, some user ID. So here, 5, suppose I say, what is 5? Here's record. We'll just tune it. I'm just changing 1 or 2 things there, just for your understanding. Okay, so let's run this. Becomes so easy. I don't have to even write a test case. I've got a tester already here. So let's see. mihir@gmail.com is fine. I don't require this. Suppose I want to, okay, fine. I just change the password here. You also make the changes correspondingly. I want to avail more facilities. So I'm suppose changing my subscription amount to 1,000, better plan, better services. Registration date is fine and the role is also fine. Okay, so some of the changes, just edit some of the changes. That's it. Oh, I mean, so role it got it as this. This is a thing. Spaces and all. What it did not like? Role it did not like is 2021. Why did it got it? Maybe extra space. Something went bad. Wait a second. This is not a Hibernate. It never reached the Hibernate. I got blown up by the value of method. Am I clear? Name, email, password, name. Oh, first was the name. Yeah.
Ma'am, confirm password.
Yeah, I know. And I realized this also. Name, let it be.
Ma'am, customer first.
Yeah. I know. I'm this thing. It shortcut never pays off. A name, email, password, confirm password. And this thing. Am I correct now? User. Oh, after that. Okay. I know. Database order and property order is all wrong. That is why my miss. That is where my miss is. So anyway. So here, what else comes here? User role. So customer comes here. So I don't want to change the role, obviously. Registration amount I wanted to change and something. Am I good now? So name, email, password, confirm password, role, amount, and this. Yeah. So observe and conclude. So what was the situation? What is the condition? Not null ID, but has a corresponding record. Is your merge trusting you blindly? Absolutely not. It's a cautious variety. So it checks select query. And then since it found the matching one, of course, it merged the information, whatever was there in the detached into the database. Let's see whether our data for Mihir got updated. Earlier, he had 3344 and something, whatever password. Let's check. You check in your case. Yeah, it is updated and it is his, yeah, his whatever registration amount is also increased. Getting it? Getting the idea completely? So these are your, this is you definitely go through save or update versus persist versus merge. So now the okay, one more method I want to show you, but let me I'll be writing a separate stuff for that. So all I want you to is open this and giving you a thumb rule. Thumb rule means best program, not exactly thumb rule, a better programming practice. So listen to this, guys. If you know your entity is transient and you want to persist it, use persist all the time. Because I'll tell you why. Save can ignore your this. Save or update means there is a confusion, there is an ambiguity, whether it's going to save or update. Same like merge. So suggestion is use persist. Likewise, if you know 100%, if it is detached to persistent, you tell me, what will you prefer? Select followed by update or only update? Only update I should want. But again, if you use save or update, I'll get only update. But then again, there is ambiguity. Is it going to insert or update? So they have given you a specific method update. So let me summarize this. All this time I spent because I wanted to make you some, popular questions ready and all that. But finally, till you are in the native APIs, Hibernate native APIs, when I take you to JPA, I'll talk differently. But here, we will use persist for transient to persistent. And anytime you want to update, will you go for ambiguity insert or update type, or will you go for a specific method update? I would recommend go for a specific update method, which will directly update. And if you mess up, it will throw the exception. So the last part before I take you to the next topic is look for update method. I must have written somewhere here. So just search for it. Okay. So I'll tell you what you look for. Okay, it is right below that. Get versus load we are not doing today. Later we will do. There are so many. Read the whole thing. And we'll try this out. Not all the possibilities, just one or two like. So take your time in reading, of course, later. So understand the method syntax first. So here, let me ask you. Update method is meant for, your options are transient to persistent, option 1, detached to persistent, option 2, both of above, either of above, neither of above. Answer is, let me see what you're saying, only for, yes. It is specifically for detached to persistent, no ambiguity, no doubts. So updates the persistent instance with the ID of the given detached. In simple English, what goes in is the detached entity, and that detached entity, that reference is copied into L1 cache, making it persistent. Input is a detached POJO containing updated state. You will require it, I'm telling you. And the same POJO reference become persistent, unlike merge. Merge returns you a separate persistent POJO reference. This fellow doesn't. But now, if you mess up, if you give the POJO with a null ID, is it going to tolerate you or is it going to throw the exception? It is going to throw the exception. Earlier, you remember opposite exception you are getting in persistent object exception. Here it is saying that you cannot give the null ID. You cannot give me, update method is telling you, you can't give me the transient object. So transient X means cannot be converted to persistent via update. If you want transient to persistent, go to those 4 APIs. Okay, so that is it. If you suppose give a ID, which you say update and you give a non-matching ID. So of course, you'll again back to like your save or update, you'll get a stale state. And suppose, see what happens is, listen to the internals. You are passing a detached POJO and that reference gets added in the L1 cache, persistent cache. But suppose there was already in that persistent cache another entity, another user with the same ID. Of course, you'll get an exception, and that is your non-unique object exception. So how can your L1 cache have duplicate records? Impossible. So I'll again simplify it by saying that what is it? This thing. If you want to update the existing record, directly use update. But if you want to, like, for example, this thing, what is it? You want to insert a particular record from transient to this thing, persistent, go for persist. So this is your details about update method. Understood the exceptions associated? So what will you pass? Null ID or not null ID to this? POJO with null ID or not null ID? Not null ID. Existing in database or not existing in database? Of course, existing in database. Okay, so let's have the check done. Let's have the test done. So here, last one. I'm going to rename it as test session API. You know, you just have to keep changing the things. So let's do this. User now IMPL. Where are we? Yeah. So here, change it to update. Okay. Of course, it is update is a void returning. So get rid of all of that. Simple session.update. Now here, user has to be detached. Okay, let's see this. Let me say properly. Otherwise, you'll get confused. So last one. So here user, I don't require user one. User is going to be what you are going to pass. What you can pass to the update method is only detached POJO. So it is assuming that user is detached. If not, it will blow up. I mean, throw the exception. So detached means a POJO reference having, tell me, null ID or not null ID. Detached POJO means how it is taken as detached. Having not null ID, having a matching record in the database, or having no matching record in the database. Having a matching record. Matching means having the same ID record in the database. Okay, so yes, it's a detached one. All this is fine. Session.update. And after that, what happens is there's no user one. So the one which you pass, the what you pass to the API is detached, but that detached POJO reference itself is copied into session cache, making it persistent, etc. Of course, it is there in the database, but not updated in the database yet. So which query you expect to see upon commit? Insert, update, delete, select, update, whatever. Tell me, directly update. So this results in DML update. Okay. Session is auto closed and all that is fine. See, sometimes, I may not update my comments. So, but you have understood it, hopefully. I mean, you read all this. And if I have a wrong comment somewhere because of that copy pasting problem, correct it. So let me do this. You are passing it in detached. Here, this is a wrong statement now. And this is goes away and this. Okay, so let's play with the API. Something wrong. Yeah, this is no longer user one. This is your user now. Okay, good. So why don't we test it? So let's say here, I'm just checking. So I'm taking all the inputs from user as always. And here, existing not null ID. So what do we expect to see? Exception or updation? Of course, updation. I hope you are saying update. And update via select followed by update or directly update query? Directly update query. Okay. So I'm taking the earlier information and just changing a state or two. Because otherwise it takes too much time, So this, just check the latest by saying select star from. So you know what your data is before this. And here I'll change something further. Something, I mean. And as you can see, it will fire directly the update query. So best one for detached to persistent is always update. For transient to persistent, it is persist. Keep it light and simple. And I'm just checking. Yes, the password is changed and the amount is also changed. Got some idea about Hibernate Basic API? The methods we discussed since morning are save, save or update, persist and merge. And the last one which I showed you was the update one. Got something, at least 10%, 20%. Like I said, I've given you the code. I've discussed everything. Some diagrams are drawn, some are left for you, and the complete write-up is given. So whichever case you don't understand, you just put it in a tester case, and try it out. Of course, I'll be there in the lab or whatever. I mean, lab faculties. You can just ask any of us. So what I'll do before I go to the next one, I'll just rename it as, it is no longer only save. So I'll refactor it as test session API only. So all session APIs, you just keep modifying the method and observe and conclude. Best way. And anytime you have a different observation, talk to me definitely. If there is some mistake in whatever I've said, I'll definitely correct myself. So that is the way it is. So now let us take you to the next topic. Okay, further objectives. Read this. What I want is, I want to display all the usernames registered between same criteria as yours, or I would say I will make it anyway. So I want anyone to give me the, okay, let's not waste time, already it's 9:50 and we have not gone to blob handling, so it's little time critical. You tell me verbally, and instead of writing here, I'll directly write in the code. Anyone wants to tell me what JPQL? So where clause is the same. Are you getting me, guys? Where clause will be u dot registration date between start and end and under a specific role. But my question is, will you say select you from user you or change? Are you understanding me? The first part of the JPQL, will it be select you from user you or change? Yes, Vedant gave me this. When I say, guys, when you are saying change, I expect you to tell me the change. Okay, so understand me. Yes, select you dot name. Got me? Okay, so now the next thing is, okay, so you're on the right track. Let's get started, and then I'll take you further to constructor expression and all that. So many interesting things you have. So let's get into this. Shall I send you this sequence? It has got a lot of things which I'm not at all sure whether we'll complete. Complete means today complete. And anyway, I'll send you this. So I don't have to send all these in between things all the time. This is the plan. How much completes? We don't know. Okay, so just pick up that sequence one. And when you download it, look for the objectives, and we are solving the first objective from that. Download sequence, let's solve the first objective. It's a small thing, but guys, all these I'm preparing you for something like your project objectives. So you'll know what I'm talking about. So here, everyone knows the change comes into the DAO layer interface here. So, so here I'm not going to display. So here I'll just get all usernames registered, etc. So I'll make a copy of this and get selected user names, I would say. And now you tell me, okay, first question, change or no change? And if you say change, tell me the change also. Read these two lines. And if you want to change something, do let me know what change. Take your time, no hurry. That tells me your understanding, definitely. Read the question. The question is highlighted in front of you, and I'm telling you, if you want to make any change, I've already changed the method name. You can see that. Get selected usernames. Criteria is the same. Yes, I got it from Gaurav. Of course, it has to be. What is it you are lifting from the database? Is it all the user details or is it a only particular column? Of course, a particular column. Var kya? Replaced by string. Simple questions I was asking. I was not asking you tough questions at all. Now, immediately update it. I mean, not update, make a method in this. I'm continuing in the yesterday's project because one thing is convenience. Other thing is giving you exhaustive reference. Anything and everything in Hibernate CRUD, you refer to this that way. So, override implement method. First time in the morning will not copy from the DAO template. Next time onwards will copy. So you start telling me. I'm writing it just to give you a quick recap. So what is the first thing? Get session from session factory using the get current session. You know what is to be done. So if anyone is typing along, start, go ahead. Get current session. What is the next thing we do? Any Hibernate interaction, wrap it in a transaction as per the Hibernate docs. So begin a transaction. Pick up everything from org Hibernate. Begin a transaction. You don't require finally because the session is going to get automatically closed on the boundary. So just add a try and a catch all. Since we are only dealing with unchecked exception, make it as runtime exception. Here, if you reach, confirm if the transaction is not null. Otherwise, you might get a null pointer. If it is not equal to null, you want to commit the transaction or roll back. Of course, you want to roll back the transaction and rethrow the exception to the caller. And at the end of it, 100% things are fine. Commit the transaction. And please copy this as a boilerplate code, repetitive code, so that next time onwards, we will not waste time. 100% clear of this boilerplate code on the third day in Hibernate. I mean, we've been doing it for almost like third day. Okay, yeah. So now, so this involves what? JPQL, you know that. So let's define let's add a JPQL. I'll just take this. I don't want to waste time. And here, you already told me name is the property, right? I'm just confirming. I'm sure almost. I'm just checking what is the property name. It is name, no problem. Otherwise, you'll get exception, property not found and all that. Okay, so select u.name from user u and remaining criteria is the same. Are we clear with the JPQL? All of you? I'm not talking to 10 of you. Never it is. It has been never like that from the day one. You just have to respond to me. That's all. Okay. So now the one-liner. So here, okay. Let's define this so that I can access it. Names equal to null. Okay. So I'll write the left-hand side. What should I start with? Session.get or session.create query? Of course, create query. We have a JPQL to wrap, right? So create query. And this create query will have, again, we are in select. We are not into the delete and update, which will happen later. So first argument is JPQL. Done. Anyone wants to tell me the next argument? The result. What will be the result? Second argument. Wrong. Everyone is wrong. Not even a single correct answer. That is why I take this objective. I know you get addicted. You don't think beyond the things. All are wrong. Try user.class and tell me what happens. It will be incompatible. Compiler error. Yes, please. Yes, finally. Guys, you're not lifting. When you say select u.name, what is the result type? A string. So how can you say user.class? It will definitely give you incompatible type error. So, sorry. It is going to be string. And how do you load the string class? Just add the dot class extension. This is nothing but a loaded class reference. It's a dot class literal. And then the remaining part is the same. Are you understanding? This was the only thing why I got you here. So this part is the same part. So don't waste your time. Just confirm whether what we are doing is correct or not. You can do it in different lines. Yeah, let me see. So all we are lifting is the name of the user, so a string. That was the only catch in the whole objective, nothing else. Start date, end date, and a role. Yeah. And we are returning that list of names to the user. Understood the change? I'll send you this. User now IMPL modified one. In case you need it. I have sent you little later. We are almost in 10 minutes. I joined late. That was my problem. So around 10 or something, I'll give you a break. Around, I'm saying. Okay, so you got this. So now let's test it. So get selected user details as already having, yeah. Copy, get selected user details into Oh, forget what I did. Copied into a snippet, which I don't want. I wanted get control C, control V. Get selected user names. As per the tradition, I mean our tradition, please revise all these things in the same sequence I've discussed. That is why I write long sequence documents so that you can understand what we did on a particular day. Coming back. So here is your get user names. Rest of the things are the same. List of names of selected user, and all you are calling is the method get selected user names. Rest of the things are same. The whole point was to tell you, if I want to lift only one column, that column maps to property name, I mean property, and that property type becomes the result. That was the only point of this objective. So you can run this. Testing part, I think you can manage. You should be able to manage. So start date. So suppose I say 1. Suppose I say 2020. And maybe role also customer. And now you can see it's nothing, no brainer. I mean, once you understand that catch, there's nothing. So as you can see, user.name has been lifted as the column, alias and all it does. And the where clause is the same. And in my case, there were 4 users which were logged in between, which were registered between these two. So that is the result. Getting it? Understood the result? Understood the main point? Result type was only changed. So this is nothing but called as projection in database jargon. We are just taking the selected columns from the table. Can I go to the next objective? Is this one clear? Okay. Next one. Now, user has a different requirement, my end user. So the requirement is, I want to display username fine, registration amount and registration date. So is it like a select star query? No. Are we lifting all the columns from the database? No. Am I lifting a single column? No. Somewhere in between, 3-4 columns. And it can happen. Out of 10 columns, you might want to lift only the 2-3 columns. So that is what we are discussing. Is the requirement clear? 100%. So the purposefully, where clause I'm keeping the same. So I don't have to waste time. But here, what is happening is the projection is different. Or okay, I've said here names and all. Okay, so I've not said email, forget email. I mean, sometimes it happens. Or okay, I'll do this name, email also, I'll say. Somewhere you make a change. I was discussing and writing. So there's a mismatch. So I want to lift the name, amount, date, and email. So what it will be, select u.name, registration amount, registration date, and email from user, where class 100% the same. Are you completely clear so far? The requirement and the JPQL. You're just lifting multiple columns, nothing great about it. If I was in SQL, I would have said, I would have replaced it by the column name, select name, reg underscore amount, etc. But now, see the problem. It's not a problem, it's a complication. So here, I've purposefully kept the blanks. So anyone wants to guess what will be these dots replaced by, and exactly the same thing you will have here. Are you understanding the question? Fill in the blanks is the question. Wrong answer. If you say string, that was for one column. Am I lifting one property, one column, or whatever you call from the database? Absolutely not. User is a wrong answer. User would have been correct if I had said select you. So we are in a fix. So it is not object, it is a object array. So here things go complex to another level. So here what happens is, listen to this carefully. All this, it is lifted neither as a one property nor as complete user, intermediate, some subset of properties. So in such case, what is the data type? The result type I have to supply object array dot class. Arrays also has a loaded class. So object array dot class. And here, see the level of complication, list of object array. Of course, there is an easier solution, don't worry. But I have to show you. In case if you see some ready-made code, you should not feel like completely lost. So once you have this, now see this. It is giving you individual row with only some columns lifted. So of course, we are going to attach. Okay, let me say this. So suppose I got it. And in the tester, how will I iterate over it? List dot for each. I'm just checking. List dot for each, and that individual one, what will be the the argument type? Object array. It is a list of object array. So suppose I say O standing for object array. Sorry, lambda. I was doing something else other yesterday. Anyway, so thin arrow, right arrow, and here if I want to extract, tell me, if I want to extract name, REG amount, registration date, email, how would you do it? It's an object array. So O of 0. So for the first iteration, O of 0 would be object of 0. It's an array, would be the first selected user's name. Then I am not saying it is impossible. Of course, anything is possible in Java like language. I mean, any language. So then O of 1. And then of course, whatever you have lifted. Are you understanding? So much to like this. And this I just SOP'd. Imagine I wanted to extract it as a registration amount. Everywhere you'll have to do the parsing down, not parsing, downcasting and all that. Not parsing is wrong. Downcasting and all. Makes it so complex. So I've written it somewhere in my readme somewhere. I don't remember something. So tell me, this for each will iterate over number of users selected, and for every user you are lifting its name, amount, registration date, email in this manner. Got it? So does everyone at least agree that this is a complex approach? I mean, I won't say too complex, but yes, I mean sufficiently complex. So in Duster, how to display that is the answer I have here. Is there any breather, easier solution? 100% yes. So see guys, I don't know your project requirements. I'm just trying to in general tell you, if you have this situation, do this kind of a thing. Tips. So if you have all the records all the properties lifted, select U from user U, which is translates to select start from users. If you have one, already done. But if you have a couple of them, don't go the hard way. Instead, there is in JPA, there is a phrase called as, there's a solution called as constructor expression. I'm showing you more and more in JPQL. So now see this. The moment I say constructor, you know what I'm talking about. So read this. We're going to try it in the next minute and then take a break. So here, select is the same. You're selecting. The moment I say new, what are you calling is a constructor, creating an object. But only rule to remember is, here you have to give the fully qualified class name. So pojos.user. And now you lift these are nothing but what? You can say either this thing, u.name, or you can skip that, your alias, your choice. So you are telling the Hibernate through that constructor expression, only lift these properties, but they will be what? Okay, let me go step by step. So this is your constructor expression. You are calling a constructor from user U, where the where clause is exactly the same. So don't look at where clause, you know that. Look at this constructor expression. Understood the change in the syntax? This is like so many things you're going to see in JPQL. So this is one of it. So now I'll ask you verbally, because we are going to do it together in the next minute. So if this is the JPQL, Can you tell me what will be the second first argument of the create query will be JPQL. Anyone wants to tell me what will be the second argument, please? Will it be as tough as weird, not weird, as complex as object array dot class or something else? Answer is something else. So tell me what is that something else? Of course, we are back to user again. Because you are guys creating a user object. So of course the result type is user dot class. And then you can just, so the things become so easy. So you get once again list of user, but with the selected properties. So instead of just talking about it, why not try and stop for a break? So start with a Dowler interface. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention the import. I mean, you must have read it already. Prerequisite. Constructors don't get created. You should have whatever you are trying to lift from the database, you should have a corresponding constructor. So, you just generate a constructor, overloaded constructor, and make sure that exists. You understood me? How? Otherwise, don't think that JPA is capable of adding a constructor and all that you have to do. Later with annotations we'll do. Today we have to do it actually. So let me see this first. I'll not go to now because I had forgotten that. Open your user, please. And let's add something. It's not necessarily the same. Add overloaded constructor to test constructor expression. The term itself is called as, you can Google. If you don't understand what to Google, JPA constructor expression, and you'll get so many good articles. Constructor. In case you understand it here, no need to test the constructor expression. So let's generate that constructor with something. Here. So you can say deselect and you just pick up. I'm picking up something, name, email, and maybe registration amount and registration date. You can choose whatever, but 2-3 fields you pick up. So I picked up name, email, REG amount, REG date. Okay, so is step 1 clear? First start with a constructor. You have to have a matching constructor, and then only all this you can add in your constructor expression. So as always, I'm just keeping it saved. Okay, right now I'll not save it. Now go to this method and add. By copy pasting, I'm just trying to, reduce the time, because with limited time, I want to cover maximum things. Get some of the user details for users registered between whatever. Get some user details, not names. Okay, so, and of course, the return type is no longer string because I'm lifting multiple properties, and those will be encapsulated in a user. Done this much so far? Reach here. I'll send you so that only the return type is changed. I've sent you that. And now go to this, and in a minute we will finish. The end of it. Override implement method. Copy the boilerplate code. Okay. Create this user list. Do systematically so that you won't feel confused or lost. Okay. And before we forget, return it to the caller. Now, So all it is in the JPQL. JPQL is the only thing which is interesting here. Okay, so start. It's a select query. So select. Now you want to use a constructor expression, sorry, new. Here you remember to give the fully qualified class name, pojos.user, and rest of the thing is the same. I'll add the bracket in a minute. Complete, select new pojos.user, whatever from user u, and where class, I'll just copy from the top. If you're wondering that why same class, you can change it anytime. I'm just not focusing there. So where you and all is fine. And now you check what is the constructor you have got. Same order you have to maintain, obviously. This is that constructor. Oh, something else I copied. And pick it up. And in the same sequence, otherwise everything will blow up. So here, either you can say u.email or you can simply say email. Lesser the better. Email, reg amount. These are the property names. Don't ever think in column names. We are at an object layer. Email registration amount. And, oh, sorry, this was a name, my mistake. Name, email, the reg amount, and reg date. Am I clear? Correct? New, select new, pojos.user. So you are actually creating a user object directly in JPQL. Name, email, reg amount. So many things are happening automatically using Hibernate. Rest of the things are the same. Okay. So now you can copy that earlier one. Once your JPQL is changed, it is all done correctly. I'll check whether we have a problem here. Create query, JPQL is lifting some of this. User.class thankfully remains same. No complications of saying object array.class and weirdness. Start date and all is fine. And you're returning this to the color. In a minute, I'm going to create a zip of it and give it to you and stop. So let's test it in a manner. I'm just copying this into get some details. Some user details. And here calling the method correctly to confirm whether we are doing it correct or not. Right? Okay. Rest of the things purposefully keeping the same so that testing becomes easy. But please be aware when you say what for each and all that, the details which you have lifted only will be having values. Rest of the values will be null, zeros. In short, rest all will have a default value. So be aware of it. And here, I'm too lazy to type the new data. I already have this. So I'm going to give the same inputs. And in my case, I expect to see Raj, Sam, Meera, and A1's detail coming out, whatever selected details. So the whole idea is to do the testing faster, get some user details. Let me run. So it is easy for me to test, whether I've done the job correctly or not. So Raj, Sam, Meera, A1 looks fine. And as I already said, which are the columns we have lifted? Answer is in front of you, name, email, amount, and date. So name looks okay, email looks fine. You can remove this toString and you can use the getters instead. This all can be managed with the lambda expression. So what else? Registration amount and registration date. Yeah. So this is where we are stopping for the first break. So you think about it. Let me create a zip and share with you. You can go over it if you want in the break, if you get time. Otherwise, lab session is the best time to go over all such things and ask doubts. Yeah, Mohit, I realized that. Thanks. Okay. So after the break, of course, we are going to start with image handling, adding image, retrieving image, and then immediately I'm going to start taking you to the second half, advanced half of Hibernate, which involves multiple POJOs, multiple tables, relationships, associations, inheritance, and everything. So let us resume in 1 hour at 11:20 and continue with the work. See you around.